At its core, Bitcoin is a public ledger maintained on a blockchain, a shared system that records and verifies ownership. In today's video, we're going to talk about blockchains beyond Bitcoin, why there are so many of them, and why that's not an accident. As a quick recap, up until Bitcoin, the internet was great at moving information, but not great at moving money. Bitcoin showed that value could move reliably on the internet without a central gatekeeper. Once that problem was solved, a natural question followed. If money can move this way, what about other real-world assets? Loans, titles, securities, invoices, assets that come with rules, conditions, and obligations. That's where programmable blockchains enter the picture. To make this less abstract, imagine something many people have dealt with: selling a car privately when there's still a lien on it. Today, if you owe money on your car, you don't actually hold a clean title. The lender does. So even if a buyer shows up with cash in hand, the process becomes awkward fast. Money can change hands instantly, but ownership can't. Instead, you get a chain of steps that don't talk to each other. The buyer sends funds, the loan gets paid off, the lender processes a lien release, the state DMV updates the title change, and ownership finally changes. Each step works, just not together and not instantly. This isn't about bad actors or incompetence. It's about rules, ownership, and payment living in separate systems that can't coordinate automatically. Now imagine a different setup. The title exists digitally inside a smart contract recognized by the state. That contract knows who owns the car, who holds the lien, and what full repayment means. When the buyer's payment arrives, a single action occurs. The loan is paid, the lien is released, ownership changes, excess proceeds go to the seller. One transaction, one outcome. That's the shift. Rules and value execute together in the same system. Programmable blockchains aren't about speed for its own sake. They're about letting rules govern how assets and value move together, instead of chasing each other through paperwork and time delays. Turning to the evolution of blockchain design, let's use Bitcoin as the foundation. Bitcoin wasn't designed for programmability. It was designed to solve a more basic problem. Before Bitcoin, digital payments sent instructions that were settled later. Bitcoin made the movement of value and settlement the same action. There was no separate clearing step, no central gatekeeper, and no reconciliation after the fact. That was the breakthrough. Bitcoin didn't make money flexible, it made digital money final. Everything that followed builds on that idea, so let's talk about what's been built. Ethereum took Bitcoin's core idea, a shared, decentralized ledger, and asked a different question. What if the ledger itself could run customized rules? Instead of moving just value, Ethereum allows smart contracts, simple if this, then that logic embedded directly into the network. That turns the blockchain into an execution layer. Assets don't just move, they interact, they coordinate, they trigger other actions automatically. We can think of Ethereum like a railroad, and more specifically, like a mainline national rail network. It's highly standardized, it's designed for many types of cargo and also people. It's not the fastest mode of transport, but it's widely trusted. And it's optimized for interoperability and long-term reliability. Ethereum prioritizes flexibility, security, and broad participation. The trade-off is that it can become congested and expensive during peak demand. That's not a flaw, it's a design choice. Solana takes a different approach. It's also programmable. It also supports smart contracts, but it prioritizes speed and throughput far more aggressively. Solana assumes powerful hardware and tighter coordination in exchange for very low transaction fees, near instant execution, and high-frequency, real-time applications. In the context of railroads, Solana is high-speed rail. Incredible throughput, minimal friction, less margin though for error. You wouldn't run the entire freight economy on high-speed rail, but for certain routes and use cases, it's unbeatable. This is where the railroad analogy really matters. Bitcoin isn't replaced by Ethereum, and Ethereum isn't replaced by Solana. They're different digital railroad tracks, optimized for different kinds of loads, speeds, and guarantees. Bitcoin is a base layer for long-term settlement and immutable finality. Ethereum enables general-purpose coordination and complex finance. Solana is optimized for real-time, high-volume transaction execution. No single rail line does everything well. Once you see blockchains as different tracks, interoperability becomes easier to understand. In the real world, cargo doesn't stay on one rail line forever. It moves through switching yards, ports, and transfer hubs. Interoperability protocols serve the same role. They allow assets to move between networks, not by merging the tracks, but by coordinating handoffs. The goal isn't to pick one chain, it's to let value move where it's most useful, safely and efficiently. This is where stablecoins enter the picture. A stablecoin is simply a digital representation of a dollar on a blockchain. One way to think about it is like a blockchain-based gift card. When you hold a gift card, you're not holding cash. You're holding a claim on cash that an issuer promises to honor. A stablecoin works the same way. Each token represents a dollar that an issuer says you can redeem on demand. What makes stablecoins different is where they live and how they move. Instead of being limited to a single app or bank system, stablecoins live on blockchains. That means the same dollar-denominated unit can move on Ethereum, on Solana, across bridges, and through different applications. Functionally, they behave like standardized rail cars, the same unit of value moving across different networks and use cases without being reissued each time. This makes stablecoins incredibly useful. They settle trades, they move alongside tokenized assets. They provide a common monetary language across otherwise incompatible systems. They're also the first widely adopted example of real-world value living natively on programmable blockchains. That efficiency comes with trade-offs, however. For example, transactions settle with finality, so mistakes are difficult to reverse. Also, responsibility shifts toward the user when errors occur. And critically, stablecoins depend on trust in the issuer to actually redeem dollars on demand. But when assets and cash can move and settle together, instead of waiting on separate systems, the gains are real. Let's begin to wrap things up. One takeaway is there is not an unmistakably best blockchain. Different problems and use cases require different rails. Some prioritize durability, like Bitcoin. Some prioritize flexibility, like Ethereum. Some prioritize speed, like Solana. when real-world frictions like transferring a car title come into focus, the interest in blockchains makes sense. Programmable blockchains don't eliminate trade-offs, but they do remove long-standing constraints around how value, rules, and ownership interact. That's why individuals and institutions see a growing set of possibilities enabled by these systems. Not because the technology is simple, but because when used carefully, it allows entirely new financial structures to exist. We are just getting started, so please like and subscribe as we explore more advanced blockchain topics, including blockchain privacy, governance, and usability. Thanks for watching, and remember to stay curious about money.